Hello and welcome back to another episode, guys. Wow, just walked out of the Batman, and wow, uh, it's all I can say about it. This is going to be sort of non-spoilery, just sort of initial thoughts. It is, it is easily, I would almost. It's probably the best comic book movie ever. Certainly the best standalone comic book movie ever. Not just DC, but Marvel as well. Um, I mean, I'm talking it is right. It's up there with The Dark Knight. It's up there with Logan, Wonder Woman, probably Spider-Man 2. I mean, for some of just the best, like not team ups or anything like that, but like just sort of best, just standalone movies. Definitely it is right up there. Robert Pattinson is great as Batman. He is also Batman like the entire time. You actually get almost no Bruce Wayne. You just get all Batman. They definitely went in a different direction, I think, than we've seen in any Batman movie. I guess if I had to pick one, because it feels like there's elements from all of the different movies and comics and just mythos of Batman. Um, in a way, it's probably closest to The Dark Knight if you want to sort of think of like a good way to compare it, just in that you do have this villain that is sort of running the show a bit, and we're trying to figure out like what's going to happen. Although, um, certainly in The Dark Knight, everything's happening like really fast. This is a much slower movie. It's 3 hours in length, but I felt like I preferred the length. It gives scenes time to breathe. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's 4 hours, so I'm fine with a longer movie. Um, could it be a little shorter? Probably, but there's really not much I can think of that I would honestly cut out of this movie. The acting is great across the board. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Selena Kyle, she does really well for as much as she's on the screen, which is a decent amount of the movie. Andy Serkis as Alfred is great. We actually don't get enough of him. I hope that in the sequel we do get more Alfred because he is excellent. And I really like the relationship that he and Batman, he has. Um, I don't have the actors' names here right in front of me. I'll get that pulled up here. But the guy from he's in There Will Be Blood, right? Paul Dano as the Riddler is great. Definitely, he gives off this sort of, again, you kind of think about like the Joker in The Dark Knight, where he's sort of like running thing. He's using like social media to sort of like tell everyone what's going on. Um, Absolutely great. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is like crazy to think that that's even Colin Farrell, to be entirely honest. Jeffrey Wright, who I'm unfamiliar with, who plays Gordon, he knocks it out of the park as Gordon. And then John Turturro actually plays Carmine Falcone. I remember him from like Transformers and Mr. Deeds. So kind of interesting. At least I haven't seen him in anything like this serious, and I thought he did a great job. So, the movie's about 3 hours. The runtime I felt like again is fine. Um, so we'll dive into it. I guess that's just sort of like my initial wow, just what I'm thinking here. I literally just walked out of it because I live next door to the movie theater. So the first thing that's going to jump out to you is the cinematography. I mean, hands down, this is for me at least, prettiest superhero movie, if not one of the prettiest movies I've ever seen, in that it is incredibly dark, but there are like shades. The color tone they use when it comes in is so great. It's almost like this just monotone, like orange and blues and reds for lighting, where a scene will literally just be like, they do such great like shots of just like profiling somebody, and there's this like orangish light in the background. There's like only like 2 or 3 scenes that even happen during the day. Like almost the whole movie takes place at night. over the course of a period of time. Every single shot in this movie is a absolute masterclass in film. It is I've never seen a superhero movie shot this way. The choice of angles that they use, the only thing that comes to mind to even describe it, they use such odd angles. It almost reminds me a little bit of like M. Night Shyamalan a little bit, how he uses like the movie Signs, he uses these kind of like fixed cameras, but then like stuff's happening. It's not exactly like that, but that's just the only thing I can think of right in this moment. The scene, it's in the trailer, it's in a lot of advertisements where Batman chases down the Penguin and he knocks the car over and he's walking up to it, but the camera's upside down, and so there's a lot of shots like that, and they're really 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 cool when we get them. Just because it just really he does such a good job of setting the tone. There's a few moments where there are things that would be graphic. There's a scene where like the Riddler is gonna kill somebody, and he's like strangling this guy in a car. Um, he actually ends up not killing him. I don't want to spoil too much, but not that big of a deal. But he's definitely like hitting him and stuff like that. And now, normally, if you were watching this, it would if you were watching like a rated R movie, you would want to show that, and you'd show the sort of gore and a lot of violence. But they do a lot of stuff like out of focus, and it almost makes it more menacing because like what's happening but you don't exactly see it, and there's a bit of that in here too. So like the cinematography is going to be the absolute first thing that you notice in this, and it's insane. I honest to god, you know superhero movies do not do well in the Academy Awards, but if this movie does not win an Academy Award for cinematography, I'm not saying it's going to win like Best Picture or any of that other stuff, but and DC does have a slightly better track record at the Oscars than Marvel. Um, I mean, the first Suicide Squad movie won an Oscar for like I don't know sound design or something. So I mean, this movie should get it for cinematography because it is just absolutely gorgeous. That's the first thing you're gonna know, and the whole thing about it is it just sets a tone for the whole movie. The whole movie is set up literally by the choice of like the whole thing just being dark. It is definitely, I'll say it's the best Gotham, hands down, hands down. It almost feels like, in a way, like imagine Tim Burton's Gotham, especially more from like Batman Returns, but we get to see much, much, much more of it. It almost all takes place at night, but it's almost like think about if that were sort of spread out where you get to see more of it, because you don't really get to see much of Gotham in Batman Returns, and kind of like Gotham from the Joker movie. But a lot of that, there's a lot of that movie takes place during the day. So like kind of like in your head, just kind of blend those two, and maybe the Gotham we get from Batman Begins, which is also different, like than the one that's in the Dark Knight and whatever, where it's darker. Like take those, like just have the mindset of like those three things kind of blended together, and that's the Gotham we get. And it's great because it's almost its own character in this. It is by far, we always, all the Batman movies talk about like this city and all this stuff. This movie really nails Gotham being dark, grimy, corrupted better than any Batman movie, hands down. So what did I just say? Paul Dano as the Riddler again. He is great. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is great. We get Carmine Falcone. If I had to pick a weak thing though, I would say like maybe the villains in this don't come across as epic, I guess, as most other Batman villains. They're not bad. They're definitely not bad, but I would give the edge to other Batman films in the villain department, at least more iconic and memorable, especially because a lot of the stuff that the Riddler does feels very much like some of the stuff that the Joker does, Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. It's great. What we get on screen is great, but I guess it's not as grand as something else. So I guess now we get to the big question, which is Robert Pattinson as Batman. And he is great as Batman. He is absolutely fantastic as Batman. I know everyone has their favorites. I'm gonna have to really sit and think on it for a while about where I would rank him in terms of like favorite performance as Batman. Just because I'm really partial to Ben Affleck's, but that's because we get to see him like with Superman and stuff like that. And so I think Ben Affleck's is like great in that role. Didn't unfortunately get to see it in a solo role because that's what this was going to be. Michael Keaton's is just iconic. Even Adam West, all of the Batmans, honestly. I mean, even George Clooney, I'll even give him credit. He was handed a terrible script. Val Kilmer, I think, was good as Batman, not as good as Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale, obviously. So I really have to sort of think about where I would put him. But it's going to be high up. I'd probably put him above Kilmer, put him above Clooney, and then it's like Bale, Affleck, and Patterson. When I get another Patterson movie, he could honestly end up moving up to the top. He's just this sort of, this is like a year 2 Batman, so he's been around for a bit. We don't really get the origin story, which is fine. We don't need it. I mean, they do touch on it just a hair, but we don't necessarily get this whole deal. He's also sort of low tech, like he has like a wing suit, right? You can still tell he's still kind of like figuring this stuff out, which is cool, and I like that we get that from him, and that we get this from Batman. He doesn't have like a cape to glide with just yet. He actually has like a parachute at one point that he uses. It all definitely seems grounded in realism, with a little bit, kind of, I guess in a way, it's kind of like the Nolan Batman movies were almost so grounded in realism, whereas like the Batmobile, which is what I'm going to touch on here in a second, is like a tank. And then, like the Burton ones are so sort of scaled up and romanticized, and trying to go to the idea with a comic. It's closer to the Bale Batman in terms of like realism, but it is just sort of, I want to say like just slightly above it. Because to me, the coolest thing is the Batmobile. Absolutely loved it. And honestly, it was the moment where I was watching this where I was like, okay, now we're into it. There's the scene where you see it in the trailer with the Penguin, where we're doing the car chase, and when you see the Batmobile finally fire up, and it just looks like this, like like Dodge Challenger or something with like a rocket on the back, and it's awesome. And we start doing the car chase. The scene, and again, this isn't super spoilery because we've seen it in the trailers, and I hope people don't miss it in the movie because it kind of happens when everything's happening fast. But it's like, okay, now we're talking this. It's kind of, for me, it's like the sort of like thing that will be shared in GIFs and memes and all sorts of stuff. Like it is like the Batman moment from this movie. Is the Penguin is sort of thinking he's gotten away. There's this like big wreck, and there's like a fuel tanker, and then there's an explosion, and he thinks, oh, like Batman was behind him. And then you see the Batmobile like ramp off, like, but it's just this cool shot where he's like staring in the mirror, and you like get the shot from like looking at him and the Batmobile coming up over, and there's fire, and again, everything's super dark, so like the fire looks that much more sort of poetic and amazing. That is like the Batman scene, and then he walks over. It's absolutely excellent. Robert Pattinson beats the crap out of everybody. He definitely feels like Batman. He is a little bit sort of, he looks, I guess, on the scrawny side compared to certainly Ben Affleck and Christian Bale a little bit, but it's fine because he's in the suit. Most of the time, he definitely looks like he could be Batman. So, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 movie for me, 100%. Where I'm at right now. I mean, I'm like, it is definitely up there with The Dark Knight. Yeah, right now I just finished it. I probably put it ahead of it, but it's up there with The Dark Knight. It is absolutely that good. I can tell right now it's immediately going to be a lot of people's favorite superhero movie, if not favorite movie, and if not this will probably become my favorite Batman movie. Just because I feel like it is honestly the most true interpretation of the modern era comics of Batman. The like, I'm going to break you type of a thing. We don't go over the edge like Ben Affleck does a little bit, or, Ben Affleck's definitely never follows the whole like rule business, which is fine because I love Ben Affleck's Batman. But he's definitely still following the rule. We're not going to kill people. His relationship with Catwoman is great, and they're building that up, and I hope that turns into something. And then the final scene, one of the final scenes where Riddler is, this is spoiler territory, so tune out if you don't want to hear it. But Riddler is obviously in Arkham, and he's talking to somebody who starts laughing a bunch, the Joker. I think that's been kind of leaked and rumored and talked about. So that seems like, hey, the next movie is supposed to be an Arkham movie, which is going to be awesome. But, the scene I actually really loved, the most in terms of like that good drama is probably the very end where he and Selena are talking, and she's like, why don't you come with me? And then the bat signal goes up, and she's like, yeah, you're already spoken for. And then they're riding out of this graveyard together on their motorcycles. And then they have to split and go their different directions. But then Batman's looking at her in a rearview mirror. And it's just so great because it's so definitely rooted in Batman and the comics, right? And everything in his story is he is beheld by the city. And you could theoretically drop it and go have this life, but he can't. He wants to work in the city. So that was just such a great scene. And then finally, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the score. It's absolutely amazing. There's really only about 3 or 4 songs, and they just sort of they hit you with them in all these different ways. Sometimes it's piano, sometimes it's this heavy like string sound. There's some Nirvana, right? That was blended in that original trailer. Ave Maria is played quite a bit, but it's like part of the whole movie and is part of the plot and everything. Definitely like the whole presentation is just very well thought out, very well crafted, which is really, I guess, what I can sum up about this movie. So thank you, if you guys, anybody who is still listening, watching, just me rambling about the movie I just walked out of, because I live literally next door to the movie theater. It's a like 30-second drive, and it's this tiny little movie theater. And it was great because I was actually able to see it almost by myself. I mean, it's like this tiny little, I don't even know how that movie theater stays in business, because I think I'm about the only person that goes there. But so that was nice. There wasn't like a lot of cheering and stuff like that, which can be fun, but I don't necessarily prefer it, because I love to go and watch it. If you don't have that, and you get the whole theater to yourself. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. I can leave it with that. So leave me a comment, guys. Let me know. Are you going to see it? Did you see it? What did you think? Maybe we can come back in here and talk about some more stuff and just go from there. So absolutely, as always, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a great time, and hope you enjoy the Batman.
If you like this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button, or check out our podcast on iTunes, or come hang out on Twitch. We'll see you next time. And as always, thanks for watching.